Hey guys, I'm Becca. I am the face behind this Beauty for Ashes page. And a little bit about what I wanted to share this week is why my husband and I chose life despite being given a fatal prognosis with our daughter at 23 weeks, and why we carried her to term to 36 weeks and a few days. Bear with me. I'm very awkward and uncomfortable when it comes to doing like videos and working with social media. So I'm just learning this as I go. So this is going to be broken up into a couple different parts. I think there'll probably be about 3 parts. I don't know if there'll be a fourth. So there'll probably be 3 parts. So this is going to be part 1, and my idea is to try to keep this as short and concise as possible, to be mindful of y'all's time, but then also to try to fit as much of the vulnerable and the real and the raw behind carrying a pregnancy like that. I've also asked you all to send me in questions, so I have questions that I'm going to answer as well as I do these videos. And so so my hope is that I can try to keep these each to about 10 minutes, if not a little bit shorter. So I'll do my best to do that. And if you aren't able to watch this right now, just share it and you can watch it later. Save it and then you can watch it later. And then also, if you know someone who is struggling in a similar situation or has lost a pregnancy or child, please share this with them. You just never know whose stories are going to connect and what things can bring hope to a person going through this. So my husband and I found out we were pregnant with our daughter Faith fairly early on. It was just one of those things we weren't planning, and and we actually weren't planning to get pregnant, so it was a bit of a surprise pregnancy. And it was actually quite funny because trying to tell my husband that we were pregnant, it's one of our favorite videos, and I've shared it, but I definitely will share it again, of him just being in complete utter shock of oh my gosh, we're pregnant, you're going to be a daddy. I actually took a bunch of home pregnancy tests, and they kept coming out negative, and I'm like, this is odd, because I know something's different with my body, and I haven't received my cycle this month, and so I'm like, this is odd. And so then I went to the doctor, and basically through the urine sample that I gave them, they were able to confirm, yes, you were pregnant. So I was in complete shock, and went to Target to buy something because I was like, I have to go tell Cody. So I basically walked around Target and was just trying to find something to buy that I could show him, and he could unwrap this gift. And so I bought little shoes, and I said I wrote on this little sign, you're gonna be a daddy. So then I showed up to his work unannounced, and I was like, hey, I'm at your work, come out and see me. And he didn't know I went to the doctor. And so then I was like, hey, I have a gift for you, and I filmed it, and it's basically him, also one of my favorite videos of him just finding out that he's going to be a daddy. So we were so excited. We always wanted to be parents, and we were just so excited, but also terrified. We're like, what? We this wasn't part of the plan, our plan. And so then over time, it was just okay, now what? What do we do? And, getting the doctor, setting yourself up with the OB. And then it was, I think that week after, we were like, oh, we got to tell our families. And so our families live in New Mexico. So we actually were planning to travel back, and we went and told them. And of course, you have it all out in your head. I had it all in my head, okay, I'm going to tell our moms that they're going to be grandmas. And we have these Pandora bracelets. And so I went and I bought this little charm, if you can see that. Let's see. So it's a little baby carriage. And we went and bought this over at, what was it? One of the Pandora stores, I think. And so we went out we had a surprise dinner with my parents and his parents, his mom and stepdad. And we basically gave them these presents as Valentine's Day gifts. And so they unwrapped it, and they were like, oh my gosh, are you serious? No way. I'm so excited. And then we all got up to hug, and everyone went and hugged Cody. And I was like, hello, I'm the one that's pregnant. Like, what? Even my mom, she like bypassed me and was like, Cody, and you know, our dads were like giving me high fives and stuff. And so it was really, really cool sharing it with them. And then of course we just started telling like close friends, like over the phone or in person or whatever it was. And then it was soon after that, about a couple weeks, we went and got an ultrasound just to confirm everything was okay. And it was just like, there's just something about seeing that first heartbeat, that first like blinking little heartbeat, you know, at like 7 weeks. And we were just like, oh my gosh, like this is real, like we're going to be parents. And, you know, everything looked great, got that ultrasound, got pictures. And then that was, I think, at like 7 weeks. And then couldn't see my OB until I was 14 weeks, or the OB that I wanted to go see after, you know, kind of looking for recommendations for an OB. And from there, it was, you know, everything looked great. Baby looked healthy. At the 14-week ultrasound, everything was growing right. We were like, oh my gosh, you know, and that's kind of when we felt like, okay, let's breathe a little bit. Like, let's start sharing our news. Like, you know, you announce it on the socials and all that. Started taking all the different, you know, the weekly pictures of like baby bumps, you know, that you're like, oh, you know, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, and then you just watch your belly grow, and it's like one of those things you always see, and you're like, oh, I can't, like, I get to do that now. I'm so excited. And I started purchasing clothes because, of course, like you're just so excited, and you're like, baby clothes are adorable, and so we've got to start purchasing clothes. Our parents started purchasing clothes, and we just like couldn't believe that. We just couldn't believe, like, this is going to be us. Like, this is, like, we're going to be parents. And so then we get to the 18-week anatomy ultrasound, and everything, there's, like, some concerns. And basically the ultrasound tech can't really say anything. And so we're like, you could just feel the energy, like, something's off, something's wrong here. And so then when my OB finally came in and talked to me about what they were looking at on the ultrasound, he said, he's like, well, the baby's abdomen is a little bit bigger than, sorry, I'm like kind of going back to that ultrasound, and it's hard. The baby's abdomen's a little bit bigger than we expected, and it shouldn't be like this. And so we're just gonna, you know, recommend you over to a different OB just to get some clarification. And so for me, it was like the news I received was like, and that was the day we were finding out the gender, and that was the day we had planned a gender reveal party at my house, or at our house. And so we were like, oh, okay, well, okay, so no big deal. Like, we'll just go to another doctor. Like, the way that the news was basically, or the knowledge of what was going on was shared with us was very nonchalant. So we didn't think anything of it. We were like, okay, whatever. And so then we had the gender reveal party, and we had a bunch of friends over, and we didn't know the gender. Like, I gave it basically to my friend, one of my close friends, and we had 2 outfits picked out. And so one of the outfits was, on Wednesdays, we wear pink because, of course, I'm like this huge Mean Girls fan. And so we had this cute little pink onesie, and the other one was like, gosh, what did it say on it? I can't remember, but it was like a blue onesie. And so my friend was going to go hide either a pink onesie or the blue onesie in one of the boxes that we were going to open. And so then we had to, and so then we were going to, you know, have this whole like reveal, in front of our friends and family. And so, so when it came to the time of having that gender reveal, and we're going through the boxes, and everyone's like filming and, you know, cheering, and, you know, we had people like pick sides, team boy or team girl. And then when we opened up the box and it said boy, and we're like, huh. And for me, and of course, Cody's pumped. He's like, yeah, you know, I get my boy. And I'm like, something didn't feel right. Like, it just didn't, for me, like as a mom, like you just kind of had like that mom instinct, and something just didn't feel right. And so, I don't know, I was like, huh. But didn't really think anything of it. And then, you know, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, we have to go to this other ultrasound, like not really sure what that means. So it was like 2 weeks later, and I'm like, my doctor said to like call this other place, so maybe I should call and like book another ultrasound. Like, there was no urgency there. And so I was obviously didn't know what I didn't know. And so then we called over to our high risk, what I know now, but at the time I didn't know. It was a high risk doctor, and booked an appointment with her. And this was at, we're about 20 weeks along. This was about late May, so about Memorial Day weekend. And she looks on the ultrasound, and then we go and have an ultrasound with her. And she says the same thing, like the baby's abdomen's really big. And that's not something we hope to be seeing at this point in the pregnancy. Like, it's not normal. And so we're kind of like, okay, like, should we be confused? Like, what does this mean? Like, what do we have to do going forward? And so at this point, this is kind of what started our 3 to 4 weeks of, I don't know how many appointments we had basically at this point, and being basically recommended to go see more doctors and more doctors and more doctors. And so, gosh, sorry, I didn't think this was going to get me. So we went to go see, so we had another ultrasound with the doctor, and, they're like, okay, well, we want to run genetic testing, just because they couldn't really tell what the gender was at that point. And so we were like, we want to run genetic testing and see what that comes back up. So that was like a blood test. And then we got the results of that, and they're like, we're showing, like, you said that the baby's a boy, but we're showing that we're not showing the Y chromosome coming up in the blood samples. And so this is indicating that the baby's a girl, which at that point, it really is very important to know whether the baby's a boy or a girl, because Faith's, her prognosis, it could be more common in boys and not as common as girls, and there's more things you can do for a boy and less things you can do for a girl. And so then we had to have an amniocentesis, and that was scary, because you're sitting there in the ultrasound room, and this lady is basically like having like a huge needle, and you're watching it on the ultrasound, and so you're just watching her take amniotic fluid, because what had happened is basically what they found is the baby's belly was big because amniotic fluid was getting stuck. We didn't know why yet, but it was getting stuck. And so we had to figure out, like why, but then we also had to figure out, okay, well, what's the gender or the sex of the baby? And so then when we got the amniocentesis back, that came back as well, saying baby's a girl. And so that was about 2 weeks after we found out baby was a boy. And then, so we thought we're having a boy for a good 2 weeks. And then you have a girl for 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden, you're having a girl. So it's kind of like this weird psychology, like, it's just really weird, kind of messes with your mind a little bit. What I'm going to do, because I'm looking at the time and it's getting long, I'm going to cut that here, and then I'll go into, in my next part of my story, is I'm going to go into kind of what that felt like from an emotional perspective, and then continue on with the story from receiving the news that we had. So stay tuned for part 2, and that will be coming out most likely next few days, the next week. Thanks, guys. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please drop me a message below. That really helps me to kind of frame, the story going forward, because ultimately I want this to be able to serve you and serve someone who might need to hear this story, just for a little bit of hope, a little bit of light, and someone has gone through it, and there's hope and beauty on the other side. So thanks, guys.